When you think of desktop interfaces, traditionally you might think of retro designs, flat design languages, such as the ones we often see today, or you might go the other direction and think of things such as Windows Vista and Aero, which is a pretty prominent design language for computer desktops. Or if you go the more novel route, you might think of liquid glass, that Apple pioneered quite recently. But these are all very obvious aesthetics. You can immediately imagine what they would look like as a desktop interface, and you can certainly make them look good, but it isn't very interesting. It's not very experimental. So what if you pick an aesthetic that you've constructed yourself? An aesthetic that is so detached from computing and user interfaces that it doesn't become obvious at all how you would even create a user interface out of the aesthetic. You could certainly create a more experimental and interesting design, and that begs the question, would such a design look good? Would it be usable? And would it be worth the time that you would spend creating such a thing? All of the theory and all of the practice that you would have to perform in order to create such a design? Well, I actually have hindsight in mind because I've already created it. I'm not spoiling it. And so I think that the answer ended up being an absolute yes. To all three of those questions, the end result surprised me in how much I liked it. So if you're interested, then do keep watching. I think you might be surprised in the end result. There's a specific style of scientific illustrations that are from the past that I've always found to look very nice. And beyond that, depictions of astronomical bodies that were depicted in the past. A hint of the classical period. These hand-drawn silhouettes of the moon and the sun that have faces and facial expressions on them, which makes them depict quite unsettling emotions. Anthropomorphized celestial bodies. This kind of aesthetic, it is very Art Nouveau-esque. It has some biblical notes to it as well, and it's kind of reminiscent of things such as tarot cards. But along with that, I also wanted to implement things that remind you of old scientific illustrations, whether it's of a description of the human body that was drawn in the past or of flora and fauna. I think that kind of stuff looks very cool, and I want to imagine an aesthetic that takes all of these things in mind. This kind of aesthetic has long been quite unsettling to me ever since I was a small child, but with time I have grown to become quite fond of the theme and aesthetic, and eventually I even start to think that those kind of designs are quite beautiful. I've been so focused on the modern day kind of design languages, even things such as retro design, that these more archaic and esoteric aesthetics, they become more interesting to me. And as such, I wanted to create a desktop interface that is extremely usable, but also has this kind of aesthetic and theme baked in from the very beginning. Well, this entire script is written in hindsight, and I grew extremely fond of the final result, more so than I have with any other Linux theme that I've ever created before, so that's certainly something. I call this specific mix of aesthetics and themes that I've constructed and cobbled together scientific and celestial antiquity. The Linux theme itself I'm gonna call Linux Antiquity. This is going to be quite an esoteric design, I can assure you of that. Whenever I create one of these projects, I usually like to examine and discuss the tools that I will be using. Things such as the actual operating system, the terminal, UI frameworks, things like that. I should also mention that this kind of theme, you'll be able to install it and use it on any Linux distro. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I, however, decided to pick Arch Linux because I'm familiar with it and it gives you a clean slate to work with, which is very, very convenient when you want to create something from scratch, which is exactly what I wanted to do. The theme will be freely available on my GitHub page with an install script as well, so it'll be relatively easy to install it. But knowing basics of config file directories and stuff like that, it helps a lot. So if you do want to edit the theme or wish to install it, I do recommend looking at my guide, which might give you a few ideas of how it's done. Anyways, with all that said, let's ponder the software. The tiling window manager I've chosen is gonna be Hyperland. Might be a divisive choice, but Hyperland integrates very well with other programs that I'm gonna use. Furthermore, Hyperland supports a thing called squircles, and squircles are something that I really wanted with this theme, so Hyperland it is. It's Wayland based, has a lot of customization features, looks nice, runs well, so it's an obvious choice, really. The theme idea will require a lot of extremely intricate designs, and as such, I need a UI framework that lets me create taskbars, bars, widgets, windows, and menus from the ground up with immense amount of flexibility and detail. As such, I've chosen QuickShell, which is a UI framework that lets you do all of this, and it integrates extremely well with Hyperland. QuickShell is based on the Qt UI framework, which uses the QML language, which is a bespoke language made for Qt. It's somewhat complicated, but not too much if you're a programmer or familiar with things like that. If you only know how to do basic script and config file editing, it might be slightly complicated, but don't worry, you don't need to know how to code with QML if you want to install this theme. It's just some information about the software that I'm giving. I will use the Kitty terminal, it's fast and themable, and the Nemo file explorer for the very same reasons. I'll use icon themes and GTK themes that are external, which fit well with the theme itself, and the same goes for cursor themes. This theme, it's going to require a lot of bespoke artworks. It's going to require a lot of unique UI elements and icons and designs that you can't just download, so I'm going to have to create them from scratch. And so I will use Inkscape, Krita, and Blender in order to create all of these elements. This is the essence of Linux theming. With all of these tools that are open source and free, you will be able to create anything that your heart desires. Something you can't really do with a predefined desktop environment, or God forbid, something like Windows. With these collection of tools, anything is possible. Whilst installing this theme and using it on your own computer is quite simple. Customizing it, contributing to it, or learning the intricacies of actually creating something like this yourself, it does require some sense of higher understanding of programming. So before I move on to the next chapter, where we will create the theme from the ground up, I want to talk about the sponsor of this video, which happens to be the longtime sponsor of this entire channel. I'm talking about Brilliant. I seldom find partnerships interesting, but Brilliant and their platform have an ethos that I personally value a lot, which is education and learning. Furthermore, they've recently introduced their one-on-one tutor. The Brilliant tutor provides a personal tutor for mathematics and coding. It doesn't make the actual subjects easier, but it helps make them click in your mind, especially if you're having a hard time with something. The Brilliant tutor doesn't give you the answer, but it leads you to figure it out on your own. I recommend trying it. Brilliant provides a large set of courses, including programming-related courses. Their solving problems with code courses will make you more familiar with syntax and how you can actually solve specific problems with functions. It teaches you these things, and it does so in a rather fun, interesting, and interactive way, a way that also adapts to your personal needs. Brilliant helps you turn this entire learning process into a habit by providing you with daily tasks that you can perform. And if you want to allocate longer times of study, that is something you can do. You can download their mobile app or also use their web platform, in which you can access your course, perform the tasks, learn, all within your own pace. You can use my link below or scan the QR code to start learning with Brilliant and Brilliant's new tutor for free. And you can upgrade to Premium to unlock all of the courses with all of the learning material. Furthermore, by using the link or QR code, you can save 20% off of the annual subscription. These videos, they take a long time and a lot of effort to make, but I do so because I appreciate the process of creation a lot, and I really like the things that I'm creating with these projects. I want to share the things with everyone, and sponsorships do help, but I am always very hesitant to choosing to be sponsored by a specific company or organization. Brilliant, however, like I've mentioned, their ethos of education and learning is really something that I personally align with myself as well. And so I can recommend their platform. So thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring this entire project. And I would also like to thank you for watching this entire project, and I hope you enjoy the rest of it. It is wise to start writing down your ideas and create sketches, concept artworks, before you actually start working on your main design. That way, you actually have things in mind that you want to go for. It's important to have this kind of foundation upon which you will create design and layer by layer implement more features and more UI elements. So I actually did a live stream where I spoke about my ideas and created a bunch of sketches and designs and wrote ideas down. And after I did that, I'm able to slowly create the absolute core of the design. I wanted to have a lot of radial menus that represents an orbit upon which I will place buttons. These buttons will be in the form of astronomical bodies, celestial bodies, such as the sun or a moon or a planet. And these buttons will have a function. Furthermore, I will be able to use this kind of UI system that features radial menus in order to have workspaces, a tray bar, and a sidebar that can open up menus. While the initial sketch might not seem like much, it is an extremely important part of this entire theme, since when it's done correctly, it will immediately give it a very archaic astronomical aesthetic, which is going to look quite good. It'll make the design look like a painting that you can interact with, which is going to be a key theme of this entire Linux theme. Now, the first thing I did was to actually create these primitives from scratch in QML. Things such as radial menus and curves aren't something that exist by default in Qt or QML. So from the very ground up, I had to program them from scratch. The requirements for this is to be able to create a curve that you can customize the position of, the actual curvature, and you should be able to get any point along the curve in order to place items on it. And it has to be dynamic. You should be able to scale it, move it, and add items as necessary. This is very important, and it required an entirely new primitive that I have created from scratch. The curve on the bottom of the screen will represent the workspaces. It will have a taskbar. There'll also be an arc on the side of the screen which will have buttons represented by astronomical bodies. Things such as the power menu, favorite apps, theming, a themes menu, because this theme will support favoriting apps, and custom theme colors, so you can match the theme with any wallpaper. And there will be a quick menu from which you can change things such as open settings menu or change the volume or stuff like that. After getting the basic idea of the entire taskbar and the sidebar done, I started designing some of the actual UI elements, using Krita to make sketches and Inkscape to make them into vector art. These celestial bodies with faces, a circle but with these solar-like flares. I made them interactive, so the workspaces will be represented by a planet and it will grow these flares to indicate which workspace is active. Furthermore, I made them spin and rotate a bit, very subtly, but in a way that makes them feel more alive. They have faces, so it would be weird if they were static, right? At this time, I also started working on the color scheme system. Every single UI element, you'll be able to color yourself. And I will have a bunch of predefined color schemes as well. I redefined the designs more and more, added some basic menus that I will use in the future to create the actual menus, and I added a placeholder wallpaper in order to kind of see how the theme would look when you have a wallpaper instead of just a single color. I did more basic things, customized the hyperland config file, made sure to make the windows like squircles, added translucency, customized the kitty terminal, made sure that theme matched the rest of the system, and slowly but surely did a lot of basic things in order to make the entire theme kind of look and feel cohesive, which is very important. And so far, this result does look like a somewhat cohesive design, and it kind of matches the initial ideas that I made with the concept art. It's also at this point where I started realizing that this theme might actually be something special. I immediately grew to like the way it looked and felt. But yes, this is the very core of the OS. It's not finished yet. There's a lot of missing features and a lot of artistic touches that I'm gonna have to implement. After working a bit with the menus that will pop up by pressing the sidebar buttons, I tried to create a power menu, but it kind of looked underwhelming. I wanted it to look more in line with the theme and more extravagant. After talking about this theme with a friend, he suggested that this theme reminded him of tarot cards quite a lot. As such, I started to design 3 tarot cards, one representing power off, one representing reboot, and one representing hibernate. Made a little quick menu and put these tarot cards on this menu, added some animations, some icons, and the end result I think looked extremely well. It matches the theme, and you immediately know which tarot card button does what. Along with that, I added some tiny references to the ancient Greek deities, Helios and Selene and Nyx and Hypnos, all representing what the actual buttons do. I thought it kind of looked cool and I just wanted to do it. After the power menu was done, I had to do the other menus. I added a favorite apps system so you could actually favorite any application, which will appear on the favorite apps menu. By default, right now it doesn't look too good, but with additional art passes, I'll make it fit in more with the theme. You'll see what I mean. Likewise, I worked on a theming menu, and lastly, the actual start menu or the quick menu. Furthermore, there's a lot of basic things that you expect of a user interface to do and behave a certain way, but you actually have to implement them yourself. They're not default. If you open up a menu and click outside the menu, you expect the menu to close. You expect not to be able to interact with anything behind the menu. All of these things you need to implement yourself. It's not something that exists by default. So all of these kind of basic quality of life features I implemented as well. After the sidebar menus were created, I started working on the application launcher. It's kind of the last core piece of this entire puzzle. The application launcher, you'll be able to search for applications, favorite them, and of course launch them. I wanted to make it look non-obtrusive, but also very easy to use and still in line with the theme. I added some additional features such as blurring the background, which you can disable in the settings menu, which I'll get to later. I've spoken of optional features a lot, to be able to customize things in this theme, because yes, I wanted to make it somewhat customizable, you need a settings menu. So I created an entire window with specific tabs that are related to specific features, and in the settings menu you can enable specific settings. With time, I will make sure that it is here where you can add widgets and customize the widgets as well. After doing some polishing, you can start to see how this theme is starting to become a highly artistic and tasteful theme, and it's very usable, and I think it looks very nice, but it still kind of looks empty. You might have noticed that this theme, while yes, it does kind of adhere to the aesthetic I've described, it still looks kind of modern. It kind of looks more like a modern theme with some elements that are of this scientific and celestial antiquity, but I want it to be the opposite. I want it to be a theme that represents the actual aesthetic from the very ground up. And so in order to do this, you need to do additional art passes. Layer by layer, you need to add things that are reminiscent of the theme. Small features that remind you of Art Nouveau. Tiny, delicate things that you just add on top. Things that blend in with the theme. Things that make it look proper and thought of. Solving this issue does require some additional steps, and it is here where we start to talk about polishing and artistic touches. Whenever you start to create a work of art, you start with a rough draft, a sketch, and then layer by layer you add more features and things to the work of art. I followed the same philosophy when working on this Linux theme. The current design looks great, but it's missing these kind of artistic touches. It lacks taste, so let us add some taste, yes? For these menus, the background is boring and empty. So I made this kind of design that is reminiscent of star charts and an armillary sphere, which is an ancient astronomical tool used by ancient astronomers, kind of inspired by this painting that I found. It's a large design and it's vector art, so it scales infinitely, and I added it to the background as a very slight touch, but it already adds a lot. It adds kind of a sense of depth and design and style to the theme that fits the aesthetic. Immediately, this makes it a lot better. I made sure sliders, radio buttons, and icons don't look boring and default. Likewise, I also made sure that the cursor theme for the entire system matched. Immediately, it starts to look a lot better. The theme just looks a lot more cohesive now. And last but not least, I also added a bunch of custom color schemes. You'll be able to pick a theme that matches your wallpaper, but of course I also made it quite easy for you to add your own custom themes. All of this is the initial polishing and art passing for this theme. Let's call it version 1 of the theme, yes, because I might add more things in the future, but this is a very, very great baseline of art passing. And the theme looks very nice, but it is missing the final piece of the puzzle. Whilst the final piece might not seem as much, when you say the word, it is actually going to be quite a significant part of this entire theme, as you will see. I'm talking about the widgets. Here I have an example of a widget. It looks good, right? It serves its purpose. But what if I can make a widget that serves its purpose as well as this widget, but make sure it has a lot of celestial and scientific antiquity themes? A widget that looks so Art Nouveau and can still serve its function extremely well, that it blends in with the theme so well and just glues the entire experience together. A widget that is dynamic and feels alive, feels like it's part of the painting that is this entire desktop. That is the ethos of this entire design and the entire widget system that I wanted to create. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I think it was worth it, as you will soon see. Let me begin by talking about a few concepts. The ancient Greeks, among other ancient cultures, such as the Egyptians, they usually followed a system of life that we call the humoral system. You know, with the 4 humors and everything. 4 humors that are directly related to 4 elements: earth, wind, fire, and ice. Stuff like that, right? Winter is cold and wet, so you associate it with the humor of phlegm. Summer is hot and dry, so naturally you're gonna associate summer with fire, and the Greeks associated it with the humor of yellow bile, which might not be immediately obvious to us, but just bear with it, okay? Anyhow, I designed this chart, yes? And I used an open API that lets you poll current weather data in any given location. And with all of those tools, I made this design, this widget. It looks quite eccentric, I know. It tells you the current weather based on the predominant element and the predominant humor. If it's raining and it's wet, then the predominant element is water and phlegm. Is it cold, dry, hot? It tells you the current humor, and I think it looks quite nice, and it's quite just generally interesting, yes? And furthermore, I did of course create a celestial body that kind of depicts what emotion you have during these temperatures. Drawings and depictions of rain, fogginess, nighttime, snow, ice, things like that. Yes, I did also add the actual data points of the temperature. You can switch the unit, whether you want it to be Fahrenheit, Celsius, Kelvin, all that stuff in the settings, but I made sure to make the actual number fit in well with the actual design. I spent so much effort on this single weather widget, and I know it is extremely over the top, but it looks extremely good, and I think it fits the theme very, very well. If someone sees it, you can't help but be interested in it. At least I would hope so, right? And I think it also serves its purpose well. By having these facial expressions and these drawings that immediately show you the actual weather and the state of the world outside, it'll immediately convey the necessary information. I think to the same degree and even more than a traditional boring weather widget would. I use the very same philosophy for this widget for the other widgets. CPU temperature, GPU temperature, RAM, storage. All of these widgets have optional backgrounds and features that you can enable and customize in the settings. And this entire widget system is something I made dynamic. You can add widgets, remove them, customize them per monitor. It's very complicated and involved, but very, very good, and it lets you customize your own system, even within this theme. With time, I might add more widgets. Feel free to give suggestions for how you would be able to represent certain data types and data points with the kind of widget that adheres to this theme. But these are the core widgets that I've created, and with those done, I also made a set of wallpapers. Wallpapers that adhere with the theme and look good with the widgets enabled. Here's a few screenshots of the end result of the design. Yes, this is up to date the most ridiculous and insane theme I have ever made, and at the same time the most detailed one, the most high effort one. I spent such an immense amount of effort and time on this theme that it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest. But I loved the idea so much that I really wanted it to work, and work I think it did in the end. It was an utmost laborious task, yes, but I also learned a lot creating this theme. The code isn't perfect. It is pending a major refactor actually, because I had to quickly make the theme work in order to make this showcase for it. Whether it was worth creating this theme, I can't say for certain. I'm sure not a lot of people will want to use this theme. It is very, very specific in its style. However, out of all of the themes I've made and all of the themes that I will likely use, I think this one will take precedence for a significant amount of time. I just like it so much. It's an extremely personal theme. It's not supposed to be simple and easy to consume. It's supposed to target very, very specific people. But considering that fact, I hope that you liked the theme, or at least found this entire process very interesting to watch. And you'll be able to download the theme for free, and I will make sure to create releases for each update. If you open the GitHub page of the theme, I've written a detailed readme about everything pretty much, including how you install the theme and stuff like that. Furthermore, I've also added a link for the wallpapers that I've created for this theme, which are also freely available on my GitHub pages. I like this theme a lot. I will try to update it and polish it more and more as time passes if I have the time. But for now, I hope that you've enjoyed this experience. Thank you and goodbye.